It is now. Okay. So if you guys could take a look, I'll open up the folders here. I'll keep my desktop open. Okay.
Just money.
Yeah, there's a folder labeled money.
There's a folder.
Okay. So here's what I want to do. I want to take a quick, like the short version of how you get paid as a branch. And I know you've seen this before. Who's somewhat familiar? Like you've seen this a couple times. But I want to spend more time. I'm going to go quickly through that. We'll do pretty much every prep until we get to the summer. But I think you can tell the difference in a rep who knows how they get paid and who doesn't. Right? You ever talk to a rep? Hey, Eddie, you say, hey, Eddie, how much have you made? I'm not sure. I'm at like 3,000. Like if they don't know, they're really not focused on, I mean, you can just tell the difference versus, well, I already hit my $6,000 promotion. I know I made $1,000 from that and so forth. It's the same thing with how are your grades? Like you can tell, oh, mine's actually at 4.0, but weighted it's blank, or this is my exact GPA versus it's around, I don't know. So here, let's do a branch pay or banchy pay. Okay, I'm gonna put it up on the screen here. I'm gonna do the quick version, and I'm gonna ask that you take some notes on this. This will be good for you to. Okay. Then what I want to do a little bit later on is I want to go through the district pay again, just to show the difference. Okay. Mr. Sullivan, I can see on my screen. Can you see one page of the branch pay? Okay. So you can follow along. You can look up here. Pretty straightforward. So this is what's common between districts and branches. We all get paid the same on the reps and the percentage. Okay. The higher they sell, the less we make. So what does that really encourage a manager to do? Yeah, recruit more people. Yeah, recruit more people. So you give an idea. If I have a manager that sells, let's say $50,000 versus a manager that sells $70,000. The one with 70 didn't necessarily make more, right? It depends on how many newer reps they had, and it depends on personal sales. Okay, so for example, like right now, the pilot and under Luke's leadership, we're not a top 5 office. In fact, I think we're out of the top 10. We're like a top 20, top 30. But I know because of the amount of new business, I'm making more money than some of my colleagues who are beating me on the whatever report it is. Okay. Like just from a profit standpoint. And you know, some years it's about competition and satisfaction of that. Some years it's about, you know, different quotas. But at the end of the day, it's about profit for running the business. If you average it out, and this is something that's pretty accurate over the years, you average a range of 16 to 19% override on what you sell. So if you take an overall CPO from your office, not including what you sold personally. So if my office sells 80 and I sell 20, off of the 80, 16 to 19% is typically what your earning overrides are. Overrides meaning commission off of. So far, so good. Any questions? Okay, we'll go fast here. Then there's company contribution, $6,000 in startup. Okay, now here's what's really important with startup. This is why the more startup, the better. Like every week, I get about $1,000 from Michael Sullivan. Like it's almost been like every week for the last 2 months. Mike is well over 10 grand, like well over. And so Mike doesn't have to worry. Like Mike's stress level has decreased significantly because he can just focus on getting his office running and putting the efforts into that. So here's what I will say, and maybe I would like you to take notes on this. Ready? You cannot access the 6,000 until you have a executed lease. But here's the conundrum. Not conundrum. It's not a conundrum. Here's the flip side to that. You cannot get an executed lease unless you give the landlord money for rent. Like you have to pay first month's and last month's and security deposit. So let me give you an average rent. Let's say your rent is $800. All right, hold on for this heavy math here. That's my first month's rent. That's my last month's rent. And that's security deposit. I need $2,400 down before I even get a lease. Some of you don't even have $2,400 in your startup. What does that mean? You're not even getting an office. Now, it's early. That's why I'm saying this now, okay? The ideal scenario, right? Is you don't deal with the whole first month, last month. The ideal scenario is you can say, hey, landlord, or we'll negotiate. Hey, Mr. Landlord, Miss Landlord, just so you know, I have this young man who's financially been saving. They're backed by the company. We can just prepay the 3 months up front. I'm sure you would prefer to get that. Like if I'm a landlord, I would rather someone who says, hey, if you give me a cheaper price, but I'll give you all the money cash right now. Like I'm a landlord. I would take that versus I'll sign a lease and I'll pay you monthly, but you're not sure, in our market, you never know. Okay. So ideally, this is what I would say. Ideally, you have 2,500 to 3,000 already, and that's just to get the office. That's just to put down and you get a lease. You guys follow me? Once you get the office, you can access that $6,000, which helps get your office running. So the ideal scenario is you have this plus a little cushion plus a full sponsorship.
And the 6K is weekly, or it's
distributed It's distributed weekly, yes, but it can be accessed faster.
Yeah, and if it's for payments.
Yeah. Okay. You also get $2,500 towards mailers. Okay. The more mailers you send, the more opportunities to create advertising, the more opportunities to have people on the team, and so forth. Here's a rule of thumb for all of you who are aspiring to go more. Each territory, depending on population, has a different amount of mailers available. You are able to send $2,500 worth, okay, which is about 5,000 mailers. Every $500, watch this. Every $500 over 2,500 equals an extra 1,000 mailers we can send. I'll say it again. Right now, you have 5,000 mailers you will probably be able to send because the company's paying 2,500. That's 5,000 letters that go right to college students, and the return is about a 1 to 2% return. You're talking about 50 to 100 touches. I'm sorry, no, yes. 50 to 100 touches. That yields you a certain amount of recruits. But if you have more startup than 2,500, every 500 over 2,500 will add 1,000 more mailers to the distribution if you have it. Now, in Puerto Rico, it's a little bit different. It's really one of the unique and kind of cool advantages of running an office in Puerto Rico is that they really have no mailers. The company is an American-based company that sends a letter. So we don't have a lot of logistics down there. So that $2,500 really becomes startup for the student. So they get essentially more or less an extra $2,000 in startup. Cool. But part of that is also pays for flights up to SE2 and so forth. So just food for thought. Okay, so far so good. Then personal commissions, you make 35% in May and June. I would say most of you, 90% of you will not be selling much May and June anyway. But July and August, this is where you make the money. And here's my thing. Can you sell for 8 weeks? And can you recruit for 8 weeks? That's really what it is. And the 8 weeks you sell are on flat 50. I want you to hear me out on this one, especially next level, because you're going to have to explain this to some people. I had someone say, well, I think I want to come back and sell because I really want to focus on money. Okay? You're an idiot and don't know how to do math. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. Don't know how to do math. Ready? What's more money? I want to be I want to sell. I want to sell next summer. Okay. Well, first of all, how much did you sell this summer? Oh, like 15, 20 grand, maybe. Okay. So what do you want to do? Well, next summer I want to sell, another. I'm going to sell 30 grand next summer. Like, really? So you had all last summer to sell 30, you sold 20, and you're gonna more than double. Okay, let's just say you do that. At what percent? 30. Okay. Or I branch. 8 weeks of recruiting, which we don't know what that income is. It could be zero, or it could be up to $15,000. But you sell for 8 weeks. Conservatively, how much should you be able to sell for 8 weeks once you're ready? In theory, because you've run 8 weeks of training, I've taught people, you've done this, how much easier is it to sell after branching? Exactly. No words, just do that again. See, exactly. So how much could you sell a week? Kirsten was an example of this. After running training, your average order was ridiculous. So, yeah, what's easy to sell per week? Yeah, her average order is 1,200 after branching. What's that? 2K. I think 2K. 2K, that's 16K. At what percentage?
50.
That's already 8K, plus whatever profit you have there, plus we didn't count September, which is also flat 50. So you can't do math if that's what you say.
September's underrated too.
September's underrated.
So underrated.
So if you, it's like, well, I just really, you know what? I know I want the experience, but I really need to make money. Then you better branch and get flat 50 and sell like a mofo. So anyway, was I adamant about that? Was I adamant? And then ready returning branches. So the Zach Schachters of the world, the Amanda Swansons of the world, you get an extra $1,500 in company support for mailers and PRs. Plus, if you happen to have someone that branches from your branch, we call that a twig. Get it?
That's
Branch from
hilarious.
branch.
I ship it.
You get 1%.
I didn't realize that.
Okay, ready? And I want everyone to take a look at this part, this next page. Everyone take a look at all the BM expenses. Just one thing I want to say right up front. But it says all these expenses add up to about, on the low end, 14, on the high end, 24. So the average range of expenses is 17 to 21,000. You do not have to give a check for $17,000 to run an office. This is what happens over the course of the summer. Okay. One of the cool things about our division is I would say our division's top two, maybe three, top two in like we have projections and we know what it takes to profit in every single market as long as you sell a certain amount personally and you recruit a certain amount. But I mean, we pretty much are able to get our branches, our low cost of living markets cost anywhere between 9 and 12 grand expenses, way below the average here. And then our higher markets, I mean, we have markets. Let me give you an example. If you're in a high cost of living market like Aventura, we will adjust for a branch. Here's what I mean. If Eric were a district manager, I would let him spend more money to run his office operation, have a higher budget because of the bigger funding support. Since he was a branch, we just cut his business model so that he was only able to spend a certain amount. Because Aventura, you could have a $40,000, $50,000 summer expense if you want, which is not probably possible for like summer 2 or summer 3 for that district. But as a branch, his expenses were like low 20s. Okay. What's that? Probably, I would guess 20 to 24. And then here, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. You have all these expense. You guys can like kind of look through it yourself. But here's what I want to show you this low one. 40K in office sales and 12K in personal sales. This is going to be probably a good 5 to 10 of you, maybe more, where you're not going to break maybe 50, 60 grand in sales, but you should profit between 5 and 7. But we have better sellers, in my opinion, than some of the places in the region. If you do it right, I think that profit should be closer to 6 to 10, but you have to kick your personal sales in. This is someone who didn't quite get the first 8 weeks that well. So if this is low, you got to crush the personal sales more. Andrew's the other way around. Andrew crushed this so much, he didn't have time for this. And we'll make that call sometime in late June. Cool. Any questions so far? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Here's what I would like to discuss for a second. I would like to talk about the mark of PRs. Okay. Let me show you last year's branch class with PRs. Okay. This is in your folder if you want to pull it up. Okay. We covered this the last few preps. I just want to show you the impact of PRs on your business. Okay. I'm specifically talking about the first 8 weeks of recruiting. Branch is one of those funny things, and Eric, you can relate to this. Luke, you can relate to this. Branch is one of those funny things. No matter how talented or trained someone is, if you don't hit the recruiting right in the first 3 or 4 weeks, you're just kind of screwed. Like you're kind of screwed on the big end goals. Like you kind of have to say, all right, you know what? What I wanted to do from the recruiting, I just have no shot at that, but I can still get this. And I have to bank a lot of my personal sales to make sure I make a lot of money. Cool. I mean, some of you will be in that boat. But here's the one thing you'll see that can help you control that first 8 weeks so you're not, quote unquote, as I so eloquently said, screwed. Right? It's number of PRs. Okay, so if you look, Eric was number 1. Okay, but you look at the number of PR set, total PR set, that middle column. Look at Eric, 438. Grant was low. Grant got lucky.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
No, Grant got lucky. Grant got the right people and all kind of clicked at once, but ready? That's not as easy to replicate. It can be done. It's just not as easy to replicate. But look at Jeremiah Williams, 450. No Copeland got a little lucky. But look at Miranda, 510. Maggie, solid, just under 300. And so we'll talk more and more as we get closer to the summer. But if you remember, there's going to be 8 weeks of recruiting. We talked about how many PRs that branch should be setting
400
per week. What's fire number? 2030. Let's call it 30. That's 240. So really 240 is the number. Over 240. But look at Eric, 438, 438.
How did Jeremy get away with 68?
I still don't know.
No, that's personal.
That's personal.
That's personal.
217.
Yeah, the total PR set is just from conveyor.
That's just the ones that you input into the system.
Yeah. So total PR, personal PR set. Okay.
Right.
I mean, Eric on the personal line probably was lacking a lot, right? So even if you're setting 25, it's called fire number. 20 for 8 weeks is 160. I would say right now the benchmark is how do you make sure you're setting 150 PRs yourself? Well, what that means is on Saturdays in May and June, you can't be taken off and just taking PDI by the pool. You have to grind and set PRs in the first month or two. That's what it means. Okay. So go down the bean run. This is the number you want to see. Eric and Grant, like again, we got kind of lucky there, but 149, 155, 312, 172, 208, 343. Our top 10 branches all broke 130, 150 plus. Okay. Questions on that? Also, I know you've seen this before. Who's making all that noise?
Training.
Who's making all that noise? Okay.
So CrossFit gym next door.
There used to be. They went out of business. Yeah. They didn't sell personally.
Wait, what did you say?
They didn't sell personally.
That's pretty good. Come on. That was a good one. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to take a look at the screen. You've seen this slide before.
Like PR's launch is like a result of training, basically.
Yeah, I mean, right? You take a look and you see the same territory here. Look at the difference in PR set, right? 597, 618, 358, 96, and then PR's launched, okay? And look at the difference in CPO. So the biggest factor is right now it's PRs. So what, right? You've heard this from Luke, you've heard this from Andrew, you've heard this from Mike. What are the factors that go into launching PRs? Like what do you have to get really good at? And Luke first years, what do you have to get really good at? What programs to make sure you're launching PRs? Number one.
I was gonna say like programs to get them not only launched for their first.
Yeah, give me one program that you've learned on how to get PRs onto your team. Active advertising. You have to be able to get on campus and talk to people, go up to people. That's one. Good. Give me another one. First years.
Social media.
Yeah, everything social media. You have to be able to make friends in a new network, which you'll learn. You have to be able to friend them. You have to be able to hunt through and go to maxpreps.com, which is an athletic website, and find the captain of every single sports team and friend them and friend their friends and network. Like, I don't know, most businesses that do now, right? You guys know I'm talking about where you clicked on one thing one time, then the next thing you know, it's all over your feed, right? That's more or less an algorithm based on what we're teaching you on hunting for the people that are on the same circles. It's the same thing. Business is business, right? Okay. So what are you getting from this, right? The key right now, remember this metrics. 8 weeks, okay? 30 PR set, 240 PR set personally by you. If you mess up, 200. How do you get 200 over 8 weeks? What's that? 23 to 25. How do you get minimum of quick math? FSU quick math. 20 divided by 8. 2.3. So 23, 24. Okay. Nice. So how do you get roughly 25 to 30 PR set every single week? That's really important.
95 PRs every day.
Yeah, and there are ways to do it, right? There's triple threat. There's rep-driven PRs, right? You make the calls. It's going to be in your schedule. But here's a great example. Let's say it is. Well, let me tell you the difference. The difference was on Saturday, we launch on Friday. The people that get a head start on the weekend did put a lot of prep. Like better example. It's the push. You have to sell $6,000 to go to Hawaii. $6,000 to go to Hawaii. It's an 18-day push. $6,000 to go to Hawaii. If your first week and you pop $4,000, you have less stress, right? You guys understand that analogy?
Yeah.
So the people who really grinded on the weekends, just in those 8 weeks, not July and August, but just those 8 weeks, if you, for example, they would get up early on Saturday, they would do their PDI, they would send to conveyor. You'll learn what that means for some of you later. And then they would just set PRs. I remember one time, Kirsten, what's the most you set on Saturday? Remember you just said, I'm just making PRs all day Saturday.
It's like 20
Yeah,
to 25.
You said like 20. She said her whole week on a Saturday.
Something like
Okay.
that.
But that's what you do. And you know who also does that every week? Andrew. Like it wasn't even a question. Even Andrew and I and Luke we'll have these conversations, and it always starts with, I just don't get how. That's what Andrew always starts with. I just don't understand how. And he always talks about how people didn't set PRs on the weekend when you only have one summer, and you train 8 months out of the year to get one summer, and you can't grind for 8 weeks. And it's not even grinding 8 to 7 days a week, 8 weeks. You can, and I do. Many of us do. But just like, how do you just make sure you go into Monday with at least 10 to 20 sets? You do that, you're in good shape. And maybe that's the next thing you write down. Go into Monday with 10 to 20 sets, and you're golden. Then it's less pressure. Go ahead, Pierre.
And if you can't, and if you're not having luck on the phones, then go actively set. Go to malls.
Yeah, we just learned not a new program, but we're revisiting a program that's getting a lot of traction to get touches. What's the program? Surveys, yeah.
Mhm.
Right, weren't you guys at the mall the other day?
Yeah, we're always at the mall.
Yeah. That's funny. But it works. It works. We're launching someone from a survey today. Pretty sure we signed someone. Maybe it's not. Careful.
Everyone I open went to town today.
Okay, take a look here. Any questions on the profit? Okay, here's one thing I want to cover real quick. I want to cover how do you impact profit. So definitely this is a noteworthy. I would actually open up your agenda. This is where I would open up the agenda, and then you can take notes directly on the agenda. Go to where it says branch pay and profit. If you run an office, this is where I could use your help before we go to the next break. And then we're going to wrap up with a quick overview of how to work through the training seminar, a checklist from now until summer, and I don't see us going all the way till 6 today. Shocker.
What?
What's that? Okay, great. Good news. Awesome. Ready? This is so crazy. You for real, Craig. All right. I'll put it up onto the screen. So you have it. Okay, here we are. So impacting profit revenue. So I think I'm going to cover it. It's going to sound really basic, but I think a lot of you without business experience or not even business majors, you need to hear it this way. Okay. Sometimes when I hear expenses and profit and all these business terms, this jargon, the initial take of, hey, how do you profit the most money? Sometimes, like for example, let's say, I'll use Amy as an example. Let's say Amy and I are running a business and I say, Amy, we need to make more profit. What's the first thing you think, Amy, what's the first thing you think about doing if you feel like, okay, I'm not making enough money, what do I need to do? Like if my profit's not as much as I want it to be, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What do I need to adjust? Expenses. Yeah, that's what, by the way, that's what most people your age go to when you think about profit is how do I stop spending money? Why? Because most people your age don't make money. So by default, by age, by career, I guess stage in life, the natural, the word is proclivity, right? You lean towards something. The natural proclivity or propensity, if you want to, synonym.
SAT words.
Propensity and proclivity are all in the one same. Ready? The common lean is, okay, I don't have as much money as I want in my account. Where do I got to stop spending? I got to stop going out. You guys have done this before. I did it. But ready? In business, you forget there's another complete opposite end of where you make sure you have more money. What's that? Revenue, man. You got to make more. You got to make more. You got to make more. And say, now ready? And here's where you kill it. When you make more and you save more.
Wait, you say you make more, you don't spend more?
Maybe we talk later some more. Okay. Listen. And this is something I've gotten really good at. Like I've gotten really good at in my career with maybe the office, the division, the CPO. We weren't, making as making as much. But my cost of living, I know how to live pretty frugally, and I know it doesn't look like it, but undercover, I save a lot of money. Right? Sometimes you see like whatever's fancy, but at the end of the day, like I have a big expense control. But then the other way, I've had it when I was a young DM where I was making a lot of sales and my revenue was a lot. You understand this when you're running an office. My 1099 was big, but I spent like a rock star. So I didn't have as much as I wanted to have. But the key and where you get really wealthy is where you have a lot of revenue and you're good with expense control. That means you're paying for your more frugal, and maybe I'll use different terms. You're living within a certain means, and you're also bringing a lot of dough, a lot of grain, if you will. Bread, grain, wheat, all that. Okay.
Holy Christ.
So here's why that's important. Okay. I want you to go through this this document with me. Let's start with revenue. Okay. And I don't mind saying it this way because it sounds a little irresponsible to say it this way. But one of the ways I made a lot of money in my earlier years, I wasn't really good with money. My expenses weren't good, but I just made a poop ton to make up for it all. Like I wasn't good at like the spreadsheets that I show you now and the big three and all those things. Those are all lessons taught to me or I had to take apart to grow up. But I didn't grow up right away. And I wasn't great at expenses. My budgeting wasn't that great. So I just made sure that I made a poop ton of money. I made sure I performed at a high level so that any amount of money that was going to be wasted because of my stupid habits or stupid ways of managing or not as mature didn't matter because I had access. You guys see that? But see, right now, not all of you have the luxury to do that. Okay. So first one, revenue. Think about the term, and I want you to highlight that on your sheet if you can. Invest. Highlight where it says invest. Okay. Sometimes I have managers that will say, I want to cut expenses. I want to cut expenses. Sometimes if you cut expenses so much, you just don't have a business. I can cut all their expenses, just shut down. Like turn off the office, turn your business off. That's zero expense, right? So you have to be careful. The key is the name of the game is profit, not who has the lowest expense. My office costs well over $150,000 to run, close to. Summer.
Just summer.
Yeah, between 120 and 150 a summer to run. But it's okay because it yields me whatever it yields me. Like you know what I'm saying? And then you guys aren't that level. Like you guys won't have that expense. But like when Aventura has $22,000 to $24,000, oh my gosh, you think about that from where you are now in life. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money. But 24 to make blank, to set up blank, you guys get the picture. So first thing is where to invest money versus spend. PRs, advertising, staffing, and your time and energy. Those are the big four right now. And I'll have any of you that are running office, maybe chime in here. Like when you're spending money to get an extra PR person to help you make calls, but it wasn't in the budget. When you're spending money to advertise and maybe make flyers that wasn't in the budget. Say, here's my thought and philosophy. You're going to all meet with me one-on-one or in groups or both to set a budget and business plan. And let's say I meet with Danny and she's, setting up whatever her position is, and she's got this budget of, I'm going to spend $5,000 on PRs, just whatever that number is. So follow me on this one. Danny's got this budget with her division manager where I'm spending $5,000 on PRs. Let's say it's May and PRs are on a roll, right? Yeah, I would continue to invest in that. And maybe we're already at 5,000. As a business owner, I would say, reach out to Jeff, your division manager. Hey, Jeff, I'm sorry, speaking by myself. I would reach out to me and say, hey, Jeff, I know we said only 5,000, but would now be a good investment to keep pouring money into this because it's rolling right now. I would rather shoot all of the darts of my budget onto something that's making lots of revenue and take off somewhere else. Let me give you an example. With Luke, our summer wasn't going the way he wanted it his second summer. So I actually doubled down on the budget, not tripled down on the budget for PRs. And in fact, I spent 3 times the amount I was planning on spending on PRs in May because we finally got some traction. So I threw a lot of money at it. I just took that extra $12,000, $15,000 that I spent that I wasn't planning, and I took it off somewhere else. So we had a few less extra contests that I do in July and August. There were a couple of things that I normally do that I didn't do. There were a couple of divisional things that normally I would have funded, but I made the managers pay for instead. Right? Because you only have a small 8-week window to put money into the business. You guys follow me on that? Any add-on thoughts to that? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but I don't know if there's
Situation boss.
situation is the boss.
I mean, I was in a position where I had a 3-month lease, and we were competing with Andrew for the Silver Cup. We were tied at the time, and I was supposed to kind of move and merge in with the pilot, kind of like Eric's opposite with Andrew last year. And instead, I ended up paying an extra $2,000 and rented it out for another month. And August was, I think I sold more in August than I did in July. So
Yeah,
that's
and
a situation where
I gotta believe the extra $2,000 yielded more in profit. But again, all of these were approved and discussed with me. It wasn't just oh well, I'm just gonna spend this because that's what Jeff said in the prep. Like it was, hey Jeff, like Luke and I had this conversation. Hey, I think I want to stay this extra month, and we said, okay, how much does it cost you? $2,000 plus. Well, what can you get done? How much is that going to make you? And the numbers don't lie. The numbers said, yeah, keep that office open. But sometimes the numbers say, hey, shut your office down and start selling in June. Like that's the complete opposite. Okay. Any other questions on like where to invest? Is that a light bulb for some of you? Yeah, because sometimes we get so caught up in college mentality, and that's save. Where do I stop spending? Where do I stop spending? You guys are running a business now. Yes, sir.
Yeah, something that I did over the summer, kind of just like that I started running business. Like at your team meeting, it's something like as little as I'll offer free appetizers at team night out. Cost me $5-10 for the team that books the most like demos. Probably remembers. Like you offer, I'll pay for someone's bowling, whoever books the most demos in training. And that'll add an extra 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 appointments. And most of the time, the kids that are booking the extra demos are your best kids. So that equals like what you're paying out is minimal compared to what you're getting back out of it. And it builds confidence within your organization too. Yeah. And we'll talk, and to Eric's point, we'll talk about contests because there's ways to swing on the contest. Second thing under revenue, what dictates your time? Time is money. Time is money. Okay. So where you spend your time as the business operator is really important. So let me give you an example. This is a true story. Trey Ketchum, dear friend, I'm actually his best man. His wedding. That's pretty cool.
That's cute.
Okay, so I'm consistent, right? I'll do that.
I got it.
What dictates your time is really important. So when Trey Ketchum was a pilot sales manager for Larry Manley, believe that, imagine that office. So there was an assistant named Shannon and an assistant named Whitney. And these two guys were in the middle. It's heat of May, these 8 weeks. There's tons of people coming in and out of the office for recruiting. And Trey said he turned the corner, and Larry saw the whole thing happen. Where Trey walked into an office, and one of the assistants was cleaning. It wasn't that it was a mess. And by the way, I'm not telling you to be a pig in your office and not clean. It was just they were doing something. And Trey, to make his point, said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I got to clean and make it look nice." And there were like people waiting for the interview. There were people that needed to be pre-screened. So Trey picked up a soda and poured it all over the floor where he was cleaning. And he threw it down. He said, "Get recruiting, we'll clean later." And that's just my guy's way of making a point. Okay. But ready? The point was awesome. Hey, cleaning is important, not in the middle of a big interview. Right? We do red zone. Red zone is you don't leave this office until it's set a certain way. Red zone doesn't happen in the middle of the team meeting. Red zone doesn't happen during AT&T phone jam. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Red zone happens after the fact. Okay. Here's what's also important. Time is money. What time you get to your office. I think that's really important. What time you get to your office. There's a direct correlation every year of the slacker team and the on-time team and the early to rise team. Every year. Oh, I don't have much. Ready? Here's what I hear a lot justified. Well, I don't really have a team, so why do I need to be at my office? It's the same student that says, well, my grades aren't that good, so why do I have to go to the class? It's the same thing.
There's only 3 people at team meetings, so I'm not going to run it late. That's the best one that gets a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah, I don't have a big team, so you cut corners in the team meeting.
half-ass team meeting because there's 4 kids here.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to take them to team night out, and I'm just going to impact them. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Moving conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So what dictates your time, right? Social media, when it's not Facebook blasting, but like taking up your brain cells.
Yeah.
What takes your time? Calling other branches who are doing as crappy as you and talking about it. What takes your time? Like talking to your mom is yelling about your branch. She's going to yell at you anyway, so just talk to her after you're running your office. That was me, right? My mom was like, every time I tell my mom, like, you're this whole cut, like, you know, it's coming. You can't really stop it, at least now for this summer. So why pick up the phone in the middle of the day when you can pick it up later and just deal with it when you're not running something? These are all little things that are important, and just from experience of what dictates your time. Okay, what dictates your time? I'm going to run an interview for one person. Oh, well, I don't really feel like running a one-person interview, so I'm going to reschedule them to run a bigger interview. You've just cut the percentage chance of them coming back by sending them home. I always have the philosophy, learned this from Trey Ketchum and the many greats, when someone comes into your office, you have to treat them as if they might not ever come back.
Same with the PR call.
Same with the PR call, same with the PR interview, everything. Okay? You ever have a customer, Danny, sweetie, just call us back after the holidays. Because we'll be just as available right when you call. Nope. It's the same thing. So what dictates your time? You have that one-person interview. They showed up. And because you don't feel like it's a good, worthy enough interview, what are you going to justify? Well, I'll PR call. But you already have someone in front of you that could physically go to your training. It's not good. It's not good business sense. Okay? Any light bulbs on that one? Anything else on dictate time? Anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's like I caught myself in the middle of, I had a bad training week where I wasn't anything exciting. But instead of, so I had a bad show to training once, and instead of just being intentional with the people that actually showed up to training that week, I got down on myself and I didn't give my best to that training class, and it reflected in the results. I wasn't using my time smartly, like, or intelligent. I don't know the word. FSU didn't teach me words.
Yeah, we skip words.
Instead of being intentional with the people that show up to your interviews or your trainings, like, don't get down on it. Just pour into those people.
Yeah, I think it's where you what dictates your time and also your energy. Right? That one rep that was supposed to be the next TLA member that quit, getting caught up in that or being focused on your training. And Trent Booth talks about this. You run your training pissed off at the training like you're pissed off at the rep. The rep's not even on the team anymore, but you're pissed at your training. You're running a training pissed off. Not even their fault. It's the rep that's no longer. I mean,
taking out on the kids that
you take it out on the kids that are there that want to be there. That's smart. You know. Anyway. Next thing, I want you to highlight these. KRA. KRA is our acronym, one of many, many Cutco acronyms. PDI, PR, CPO. KRA stands for Key Result Area. Key Result Area. Okay. Here are things that impact your profit, not staffing. And here's what I mean by that. Staffing, for me, staffing refers to the following. Staffing refers to when you have a person that's supposed to help you call PRs by design. Okay. Not staffing means you haven't hired that person, or they're not trained, or they're not making the calls, or they got hired and trained, but they're not showing up. That's all part of staffing. Every branch office will have one person staffed. Every returning branch office will have one or two. Every new district will have one or two. Every vet branch or vet district will have 2 or 3. All the big offices will have 3 or 4, and the pilot will have 4+. Okay, PR helpers. Okay, if you're not putting the time, if you don't have it staffed, you're losing money because remember that PR chart we talked about? It had how many did the branch set personally, but it had total set. Who's going to set that other? Like one of the branches had 400 set total for the summer, 100 were from them. So who are the other 300 from? Well, there's conveyor, which is the text center. But then we have to staff people to help us call. Okay. And how many of you are making PR calls right now yourself? You are Andrew's version or Jackson's version of staffing right now. Okay. Driving demos. When you have a phone jam and you don't average a certain amount of demos, you're impacting profit. Training pop. Learning how to impact what people sell when they leave training. The most important sales are the first 3 days. Okay. Personal selling when it's time. Startup confidence. Here's what I found. When someone doesn't have a lot of startup or enough, then they lose confidence and they're operating from fear, and then they don't put energy into the right parts of the business because they feel like they don't have money. Andrew talks about operating from scarcity. You've heard that before. Okay. Versus abundance. If I told you right now you had 30 grand in your account, like how would you even walk? You'd walk differently, right? Your walk would be a little bit more swaggerlicious with 30 grand in your account. Right? If I had 30 grand in my account, I'd call the police.
What does that mean?
I mean, if I only had 30 grand, I'd call.
Like, where's the rest of my money?
Where's my money? But it's a different, right? But what the amount of money is the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny how it's weird how that works. 30 grand is the same amount of money physically. Like if you cash that out, it's the same amount of bills. But cash and confidence. That's why startup is so important right now. What dictates your time? We said that hunting for quality recruits, that is worth your time and will help you. Like when Grant Strayer sits in a sub shop and tries to hunt down these quality kids from the sharp prep schools, it's worth his time when he doesn't have anything going on. Now expenses, okay? Office search. Here's what I'll say. We have had offices in the past that did a half you-know-what job or a delayed job on office searching. And let me say this very accurately, because I want to say this now so you don't say you never told me, Jeff. If you don't get the work done on office search on your end, okay, within a certain time period, there are no promises that we will make up what you missed. So let me give you an example. Let's say by February 15th, your job was to get this many referrals for us to go find your office. If you don't do the work, your time for Andrew, let's say, to find your office was that week. If you're behind and he can't do it, you go to the bottom of the priority. And when everyone else gets done, then we come back to your office and you're on your own until then. And by the way, we have people that will find their office that way. But it usually costs a lot more money. You're usually not in the place where you want to be. And there are just some issues with not finding the right office space. So one of my biggest tips that can help you for profit is get onto office searching early. Yes, Luke will tell you. I will tell you how to do that on the January 12th. But don't fall behind on deadlines that will massively eat into your profit if you have an office that's too expensive, but it's all the choices we have because you didn't do your due diligence. Okay, you can speak to that. Right?
I mean, your plans for spring break, I would make sure you have designated time that you have down here for at least a week or two that you can be physically.
I would say don't make
if you don't have plans for spring break, don't make anything that's like.
I would say, ready? This is what I get all the time. I always get people to say, yeah, but Jeff, I made spring break plans. You're screwed. You didn't talk to me. You didn't make any counsel on your spring break plans, and you went away during the time that you were supposed to find your office.
Unless you can take another week away from school where you did.
Yeah.
No,
but you can do that. But we work it out where Luke says, I want to take this trip. Okay, well, where can you skip school for a week and come down? Here, fine. Like that, we can do that too. But when you start making choices, any choices that have to do with your time in the spring, talk to your manager before you pull the trigger, just to make sure we don't have a mess up here. Yes, sir.
Make sure you're planning out time. That doesn't mean leave 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I left 1 or 2 days to find my office. It didn't work.
It took 2 weeks.
It wasn't even close to working. I had to come down a separate weekend. It was a logistical nightmare, and it made my life so much more difficult than it had to be because I didn't make the right decision. I wasn't willing to make a sacrifice on spring break to spend 3 or 4 days looking for my office that was going to yield me way better results than going to the beach with my friends. I just didn't know how to say no.
I mean, I'm not telling you what you have to do, but if I were a first-year branch, my spring break would be the summer trip in October, wherever we go, with Cutco, all inclusive. And I'm not telling you can't take trips, but timing of trips is really important, right? If your parents said, "Hey, we're gonna go on a trip the week of your finals," how would you react? Well, Mom, I can. You should protect your business the same way. But some of you are like, "Oh, well, my mom said we have to go here." Oh, okay, just your profit, all good. Okay. Expense control, bills. Okay, making sure, for example, electric bills and leaving your air on versus, you might not know this, but if you turn your air off and on every time you come in and out of the office, it costs more money to restart the on and off and on versus you just put your thermostat up to 78, 79, it will stop flowing. And when you walk into the office, you put it back down to 72. That saves money. Okay, little things like that we'll continue to review. Contests. I love that Eric is using a contest strategically, but sometimes people get contest happy, and they have all these big baller contests. And I mean, our contest is pretty genius. I really have to thank Luke for this. Yeah, Luke and I in the beginning of the summer, I'll say, all right, this is how much money I'm allotting to contests, and I don't actually. And I even said this: I don't care how you spend it. Let's say it was $1,500 for phone jams. It was less. $1,000 for phone jams. You can run a phone jam where the winner gets $1,000 cash. But then there's zero money left.
So
that's cool. But so we would budget it out, and then we would do things like we would do a gift card phone jam. You guys know it. You putt for dough. But see, the cool thing is if they don't hit the hole with the golf ball, then they don't get the prize. So that's a small little way of protecting the budget. cash grab, you know, just there. Anyway, have a budget for your contests. Okay. Eating out, the number one killer of profit is branch personal eating out. By far, not even a not even a close second place. The number one killer of profit is personal eating from a branch. I had a branch one time that said I didn't have any profit. I feel like it wasn't what was promoted to me, and they had spent $2,700 on eating out. Now you go, oh my God, that's crazy. It's not. It's just eating. It's like eating Chipotle twice a day. That's just Chipotle twice a day. Now, when I say, oh, I had Chipotle twice a day, do you think, oh my gosh, you're going crazy? Maybe, maybe not. But when you hear 2,700, it's the same number. Yeah. Chipotle twice a day is $2,700 or whatever the number was at the end of the day. So, ready? Meal prep. Meal prep. Or ready? You go to, and Heidi did this. And gosh, one of the many things I love about my wife. So she's in Wisconsin for 12 days at Airbnb. She went to the Costco and got it for, and she doesn't have to do this, but I just let her do it. It's, I don't know, like I can buy her food. she's like, I just want to save money. I'm like, all right, this is great. So she buys frozen vegetables. She gets Costco chicken, Whole Foods chicken breast because she doesn't want frozen. That's okay. And then she gets granola bars. It's like a branch. And then for dinner, she'll take a bowl, put the frozen vegetables. It boils in its own, like the ice, right? So she heats that up, heats the grilled chicken, and she's eating super healthy. She's like, I feel so lean. It's because you're eating like a branch, right? But she's saving a lot of money. She saved a ton of money by not eating out. Last night she went out for the first time. She goes, I used the credit. It was like $40. She goes, I used the credit card. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, $40, great. Because she's so frugal on the eating out, and that can save you a lot of money, right? And for her, that money goes back into when we have the nicer dinners in her mind, which is cool. Cool. Food for thought. No pun intended. Not selling. That is going to impact. That is a bad expense control. By not selling, you are choosing to dig into profits. Pretty straightforward. And then scenarios of profit. Let me just give you the short version of this that I can put on the board. And then we'll go to break. I'll use the board here. Ooh. New erasing. New erasing. New erasing. Okay, watch.
Take it.
So summer. 8 weeks. 8 weeks. Okay. What's the first 8 weeks?
Recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting. What's the next 8 weeks? Selling, depending on your recruiting. But more recruiting. So watch. Here like the big three. 20 to 30 PRs set per week by you. 20 to 30 PRs set every week by you. Okay. Social media and campus work to create recruits. 20 to 30 PRs per week set by you. 30 social media plus campus, and then staff, your PR caller, staff your helper. If you're a branch or new DM, it's 1 or 2. If you're a vet DM, it's 2 or 3. Like, in other words, the person that's going to help you make PR calls. And we'll have a whole session on how to get that. So anything related to PRs. Then this is personal sales. 50%, flat 50. This is where big profit part. So let me give you 3 scenarios. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Scenario number 1. Your recruiting is high. This is Andrew. Like, you get a team built, it's booming, it's making a lot of money. You will probably have a low time to sell, and a lower part of your profit will be from personal sales, mostly here. Okay. This is like 10% of you, 10 to 20% of you, meaning like there would be like Eric and Andrew. I told them for the most part, not in so many words, you're not really personally selling this summer until August, maybe. Like your team is the most important revenue right now. Okay. I'll put like a dash for like, okay. Okay. So it'll be in between. You guys, this is pretty straightforward. And if you don't get it going on here, this is where you have to get your profit from personally selling. So here's what I'll say. At the end of the day, all of these can equal high profit. It doesn't matter which one you are. But if you don't hit this part, it doesn't make the profit. So ready? I want to be the office that has a lot of people and that's how I make my profit. Fine, but you got to nail it. But if you don't, this is really important to get your personal sales going. Okay? Like I want to be very upfront. There are going to be some branches where I say, you know, I'll use, hey, Luke, you know what? We're going to stop the recruiting now. It's only been 7 weeks or 6 weeks, but you just, for lack of a better term, you sucked at getting the recruiting. We didn't get it. Like this is what was on your end. This is what's on my end. This is what didn't happen. This is just by fate. I mean, with your business, fine. We have to stop running all operations, even if it's before 8 weeks. Like there might be a branch or two or three at most, where we won't even get to 8 weeks. We're going to switch it to this. So it'll be like 6 weeks, right? And then 10 weeks of selling. That's okay too, by the way. That's okay too, because did you still get business experience, the experience of trying to create and open an office? Yeah, you just didn't turn the corner. That's, I don't know, most businesses. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So like is it for district? Is it similar or is that a separate discussion? Okay.
Same. District managers that sell personally are smart and like money. I'll say it again. District managers that when they have the time to sell personally and do are smart people that like money. Because Ben Jackson is a division manager and he sells for pushes. He's good at it. He has an easy customer base that he's been keeping up with. And when he sold as a district manager, he sold, I don't know, like 15K for only a push 1 year. It was just a statement. And they said, well, why did you push? And his office was like #1 new office DM. And he said, because I like money. That's what he said. I like money. And I'm good at selling. Why wouldn't I sell? You know? I think district managers, for the most part, like newer, most district managers, they're like 3 to 5 months where we encourage you to really dive into your sales personally, like to increase it. And then the other 5 to 6 months plus back at your office. And it's the same thing. Like let's say Trent, when you're Trent and Steven and Daniel and Michael Sullivan, you guys are like newer managers. You've never had really office experience to run your own office. This is pretty much like how your summer is, and then the beginning of the fall, and then the beginning of the spring until your second summer. It's the same thing. Cool. Any questions? Okay. Outstanding. Hey, let's do this. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. And then my goal is to kind of get through the rest of the material pretty quickly here. Okay, so I have 4:36. How about 4:47? 4:47. Done. Thanks, guys. Any questions? All right, we'll debrief at the end.